So first, jobs in the economy, the truth behind the numbers. If you hear the administration, Governor Shumlin and the administration talk about the economy, everything is rose-colored glasses, really. They're putting together a very positive picture of Vermont having a very low unemployment number, which is true if you consider the unemployment number that we have. And they're also talking about incomes being better, and they're talking a lot about green jobs. Those are the rose-colored glasses that they're being presented through. That's sort of a smokescreen hiding some fundamental rot in our economy. So given the good story that we have, why worry? Well, here's the first piece of data that I want to share with you today. And this is the number of jobs that Vermonters have had up to the recession. You see the climbing from about 2002 to about 2007. That's where the recession hit. And you see the big drop-off here. We went from about 308,000 jobs down to 297,000 jobs. We're still climbing back out of that recovery very slowly, and we're about 305,000 jobs now in the state of Vermont. Still below that number that we had at the beginning of the recession. So people out there are hearing that the economy's great and everything's improving, but they don't feel like it's right. And their instinct is correct. We have not fully recovered from the 2007 recession, which is strange because by now, in most economic downturns, we would have had really robust growth and we would have pulled out completely by now. But we haven't. And I think a lot of the policies that have been put in place by our legislature here in Vermont have something to do with it, both nationally but also here in Vermont. So Vermont still has roughly 2,000 fewer jobs, employed people, than we did in 2007. So why is Vermont's unemployment rate so low? You're going to hear Vermont has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country. Right now, I think we're fourth. We tend to bounce around. Sometimes we're third, sometimes we're fifth, sometimes we're sixth. But right now, I think the number from December to January is about 4.6. We're actually lower than that now. We're about 3.5 from when this data came out. So that's good, shouldn't it be? And yeah, it's better to be fourth than 50th in the United States, and a low unemployment number is certainly better than a high unemployment number. But one of the reasons that it's coming across as so low is because the labor force is shrinking. That means the number of people out there working or looking for a job is getting smaller and smaller, and that's not a good thing. So if you look, the labor force in December was 353,450. In January, in December, or January, and then a year later, so flip that over, it's 3,000. It's gone from 357,600 to 350,450. So we've actually lost jobs, people looking for jobs.
Can I?
Yeah.
Is this because of an aging population, a moving population? Because if you're thinking percentages, is it because people are just now out of the workplace because they don't care? Because all these makes difference in really what the economy is like.
All of those things are playing a factor in it. Our population growth, and Chris actually had a slide in here and I took it out. I would probably put it back in, showing Vermont's population growth. And our population growth was fairly steady, and then when the recession hit, it really flattened. So you don't have people who are coming into the state. In fact, there was one period last year where we were one of only 2 states in the entire United States that had a decrease in population. It was us and Rhode Island. And it was not that much. It was like 600 people, a fraction of a percentage. But to be the only 2 states that are actually losing population is not a good thing. Between 2000 and 2010, the entire population of the United States grew by about 10%. Vermont grew by less than 2%. And now it's really flattened off. So yes, there's no population growth. We do have an aging population. We are the second oldest state in the union, behind I think it's Maine. So we have older people who are not participating in the workforce as much as they would because they've retired, which makes sense. And the younger cohort, the 18 to 36-year-old demographic group, it tends to be moving out. If you want a really detailed look at the demographic effects on Vermont's economy, go on our website under the issues thing. You'll see, click on issues, go down. There's a link to a presentation or a paper that John McLaury and Art will put together. It's called Off the Rails, and that is a very detailed look at how the demographic plight of Vermont is driving a lot of the economics and a lot of the spending. We could do a whole hour-long presentation on just Off the Rails, so that's a good question. Just here, it's hard to see, but you take a look, and that shrinking labor force is outlined here. We'll send around the PowerPoints. You can just take a look and see that this is not necessarily a new phenomenon. It actually goes back several years. So why else do people feel like, okay, the governor's telling us that employment is great, and all these any bad things that you hear, it's all a big nothing burger, I guess. Well, another reason people, I think, are very uncomfortable is because they see in the news we're losing good jobs. The state is losing a lot of good jobs. Just some examples. IBM has lost just under 1,000 jobs over the past year, I guess it's been. Those jobs are gone, and there are 4,000 more of the people who are still employed are in limbo. We don't know if IBM is going to be sold to somebody. The last deal with Global Foundries seems to have fallen through, which could mean that nobody buys that plant and IBM sticks around and continues to shrink. It could mean that nobody buys that plant and IBM decides to just shut it down and go away because it's no longer profitable or part of their business plan. It could mean that they keep it, they could sell it to somebody else. Nobody knows, but that's going to have a tremendous impact on our economy. Vermont Yankee, thanks, I think, in great part to the actions of the legislature, Vermont Yankee is phasing out over 600 high-paying, good benefit jobs. That's going to affect the economy, particularly in the southern part of the state, but it's going to ripple through. Energizer in Franklin County, they closed a plant. That's 165 good manufacturing jobs gone. Plasan Composites down in the Bennington area are gone. They moved to Michigan, 140 jobs. Kennametal in Lindenville, 80 jobs gone. Huber Schuner in Essex, 65 jobs are gone. Benway's Taxi in Burlington, those are jobs that 70 jobs got that people can do. The EB5 projects in the Northeast Kingdom, if you're following the news, are now sort of on shaky ground. That had been a real economic driver in the Northeast Kingdom part of the state. So people have to understand, people do understand that something's wrong with our job market. Now, these are good paying jobs. IBM, Vermont Yankee, Energizer, Plasan, these are good paying jobs. $100,000 a year jobs, good benefits. What are we getting though? What are we looking forward to? The unemployment number is low, but what kind of jobs are we replacing those good jobs that are going away? The Vermont Department of Labor periodically publishes the short-term unemployment, or the employment outlook, and in July 2014, the projections show where the state expects the job growth to occur. What sectors? The top 10 sectors of where job growth is expected to occur are cashiers, personal care aides, retail salespeople, food preparation and service workers, including the fast food industry, waiters and waitresses, registered nurses, landscaping and groundskeeping, carpenters, maids in housekeeping, farmers, ranchers, and agricultural managers. So if you look at that, only one of the top 10 occupations that are projected to have the most openings require a college degree. And I think you can say, and that would be the nurses. That's also a heavily taxpayer subsidized industry, which is a problem in and of itself. And I would say carpenters is highly skilled labor. You can make pretty good money as a carpenter in the state. But the rest are, you're looking at entry-level minimum wage jobs that you can certainly move up to, but those people have to have some place to go after that. And that's what we seem to be missing in this economy. Here, again, when we send this around, this just continues the list from the top 10 from 11 to 30. And still, you're looking at 11 janitors and cleaners, 12 child care workers, secretaries and administrative assistants, accountants and auditors, teacher assistants as dishwashers, counter attendants, bookkeeping, cooks, hotel, motel, orderlies, first-line supervisors, customer service representatives, social and human services, stock clerks. I mean, you go down the list, and we're not seeing those high-paying jobs coming into the state. And that's what the policies that we put forward as a legislature and as a state really needs to address. There's a big question. These are the problems. Why is Vermont's employment so slow to grow? Well, there are a lot of reasons why, but Vermont consistently ranks poorly in worst states for businesses. There are a lot of organizations that put together these types of rankings. And I've listed some of them here. Forbes, which is sort of here, ranks as 44th. The Tax Foundation ranks as 45th. CNBC just came out with one. They ranked as 42nd out of 50 states. The Economist from the United Kingdom, pretty unbiased source. They don't have an axe to grind. They gave Vermont an F. They don't do 1 through 50 rankings, but they gave Vermont an F. So, you know, what you'll hear from a lot of the folks in Montpelier is that, well, all of these things are biased. None of them are correct. You know, the way I look at it is like if you're out there on the dating scene and you keep dating men or women or whoever, and they keep telling you after a couple of days, I don't want to be with you anymore, and it's really not you, it's me. It's really not you, it's me. At some point you're going to have to come to the realization, it's probably you. And you might want to start brushing your teeth and combing your hair and putting on deodorant in the morning before you go out. You have to change something. And that's what we need to do here in Vermont. We need to change these rankings, and there are things that you can do. What is driving those poor rankings? What's driving it? What are some of the fundamentals? Vermont is the most costly state in the union for manufacturing, according to a 2010 study it was done by the University of Connecticut. They looked at manufacturing states. Who's the most costly state? So you look at those companies, Plasan, Kennametal, Energizer, IBM. They're looking to go other places because it's really expensive to do business here. So if you want to keep them, if you want to attract more people like them, you can't continue to be the most expensive state in the union for manufacturing. It just makes sense, yes. We have the third highest property taxes in the country. This is a 2010 figure from the Tax Foundation. If you look at us here, we're behind New Hampshire, but New Hampshire doesn't have an income tax. New Hampshire doesn't have a sales tax. Then you got New Jersey, which is probably more messed up than we are. I'll grant them that. Then comes Vermont. And then another one is Texas is up there, but again, Texas doesn't have the income tax, and they probably have better corporate tax rates than we do. We've got everything here. And that's what's driving. And if you look what happened in the last legislative session, the legislature voted to actually increase the tax on the property taxes for non-residential properties. They shifted it away from the residential properties, so if you're a homeowner, you're a little bit better off than you might otherwise would have been, but they shifted the burden onto non-residential property tax people, which is businesses.
Well, residential went up, commercial went up higher.
Yes, residential, they were both supposed to go up at what, like 5.5 cents or something like that? Or maybe, no, they were both supposed to go up about 7%. 7 cents per dollar. And they lowered the non-residential and they raised, or lowered the residential and raised the non-residential. So they're both going up significantly. But the burden really was shifted more towards, that's small businesses. That's the barber shop. That's, the general store. Those people are going to be paying higher property taxes. So it's going to be the Ben Ways taxi.
The projections for next year are about a nickel if we do nothing different.
Yeah, it's going to continue down that road, but that just makes it harder for particularly small businesses to do business in the state. Vermont has the fourth I got to type it, don't I? Highest electric rates in the state. Vermont household electric rates, they used to be the lowest in New England, but look at the policies that we've had. We've been subsidizing wind, we've been subsidizing solar and renewables, we've been trying to get rid of Vermont Yankee. So now they've been growing faster here than other New England states. We're now the fourth highest in the U.S. After Connecticut, Alaska, and Hawaii. The rates in November 23rd, with all the taxes fees included, were Vermont 17.54 cents per kilowatt hour, and then you can see what the others are there. And there's the link to that. So high electric costs, high property taxes, high cost of manufacturing. And what is our legislature doing in the face of all of this? Yeah, they get rid of Yankee. But they've increased the minimum wage to $10.50 by what year is it, Doug? Is it 2017 or 2019?
I think it's 2017.
I think it's 2017 as well. So incrementally, it's going to go up to 1050. By then, it makes it harder for smaller businesses. It makes it harder for people hiring all those folks that need to be hired. They raise property taxes on the businesses, which I just alluded to. They're considering mandatory paid sick leave legislation. That was bandied about in the last legislative session, and I'm sure it's going to come up again. They are enacting more restrictive zoning regulations. It's going to be very hard to build outside enterprise zones. They're imposing mandates that increase the cost of electricity. We talked about our electric rates. Used to be a benefit in Vermont, and very quickly it's turned into a liability. And last but not least, on my list anyway, though I'm sure there's a million other things that they've been doing, they're committed to raising at least $2 billion in new taxes to pay for single-payer health care, which is likely an 18% payroll tax increase. So if you're a small business that currently doesn't offer health insurance because you can't afford it, and you get hit with an 18% payroll tax increase, that it's not like an insurance premium that you can decide whether you're going to pay it or not, or you can find another vendor to give you a lower rate. A tax is a tax. If you don't pay it, you're a criminal, which is a big deal. And John's going to talk more about that in his presentation. So the legislature, as it's currently comprised, is not a friend of small businesses or large businesses in the state. They're just anti-business, period. Gross state product here, according to the 2010 U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis report, Vermont's gross state product was $26 billion. And the largest component of our gross state product is, drum roll please, government. At $3 billion, 13.4% of gross state product. It's the largest component which is paid for by the taxes generated by the private sector income. And this is the very definition of being upside down. If government dominates the economy, where will the private sector economic growth come from? It's just a question, it's too big. The last point I want to make just has to do with the Shumlin administration talking about median household incomes are increasing. They're talking about that as a positive data point. It's just worth understanding where that number is coming from and where they're getting the numbers. And basically what it is the Shumlin administration touts the median household income number as a healthy economic indicator. But A, the governor's website data stops at 2012, even though 13 and 14 data is available. And B, the components of the income from the previous slide show that the increase in income, I cut the previous slide, so never mind that, is at least significantly due to transfer payments, which is money coming from one redistributive programs. So people's income is going up because they're getting more money from welfare or something like that. And there is also, and this is what I found really interesting, an increased likelihood that multiple wage earners are now living in one household. So if you've got more adult children moving back in with their parents, the household income, assuming that the kid has a job, maybe not enough to pay for their own apartment, but they're earning money that's going to drive up the household income. So, but it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with individuals earning more income. So in conclusion, just a couple of points to remember. With Vermont's employment and economic future outlined above, just two more variables to add to the mix. The Shumlin administration's plan to move to single payer by 2017, estimated costs of roughly $2 billion. And to put that in perspective, in 2013, the state's total tax revenues were $2.7 billion, general fund revenues. Vermont's unfunded pension liabilities are estimated at $3 billion. And that's another presentation we could make just on its own, the unfunded pension liabilities.
Everything we collected all together is about 5.
About 5 point something billion total tax revenues. That includes the money that comes in from the feds. Yep. Considering the lack of economic growth, Vermont's demographic trends, and the overall business climate, to describe Vermont's employment outlook as anything other than bleak is equivalent to wearing blinders or rose-colored glasses. Or perhaps it's equivalent to being purposely blind to the economic realities that Vermonters live with every day.